Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. A modern-day rivalry was the focus in the FA Cup, when Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Pep Guardiola's City squared off at Wembley. In the end, it was Liverpool that made it through to the final, 3-2 thanks to a Konate header and a Mane double, whilst Grealish and Bernardo scored for City. But what tactics were on display? Let's take a look. And if you want to take your enjoyment of the game up, I'm happy to be working with my fantasy football app of choice yet again, Spitch. Spitch is my favourite fantasy football app, as not only can you play for free and still win cash prizes, the scoring system is much more interesting. It's not just goals and assists, so players also get points for passes, tackles and interceptions, meaning that all 11 players are crucial. Even better, Spitch's overall scores and prizes reset each week. So, if you join today for example, this week you have as much chance of winning a prize as anyone who started playing on match day 1. So, download Spitch for absolutely free through the link in the description below to give it a go, and to help support the channel. Also join the FMS EPL community on Spitch, link down below, and I'll shout out the best performers. Currently it's UK and Ireland only, 18 years old and up, and you need ID to fully register. We'll begin with City on the ball, as Liverpool's pressing was particularly effective. City were looking to build up from the goal kick, with split centre-backs and Stefan being the third man. However, once the ball became active, Liverpool's front three could easily apply pressure man-to-man. At times, if Liverpool wanted to keep one forward deep to have some more solidity, Mane could remain deeper tying up Fernandinho, whilst the wider forwards would look to press the centre-backs. This is because, unlike Edison, even under less pressure, Stefan is less likely to pick out a dangerous pass, so they were happy to give him some more space, and a Liverpool man could always then use a curved run to cut out a centre-back whilst pressing Stefan. This is evident in the Mane goal. So City later looked to adapt, dropping Bernardo or Fernandinho alongside Stefan to begin the play, allowing one centre-back to move even wider. This meant that City would now have an extra man wide and deep, as the Liverpool front three was still looking to press narrow, meaning that the wider City man would now be free to receive. However, Liverpool were often so aggressive in the press that Trent would cover the widest man, and Konate and Van Dijk could shift across, and they were comfortable as they are both strong and mobile enough to deal with the forwards 1 versus 1. And in open play, Liverpool's press was just as effective. And unusually for City, they were using a traditional back four in the build-up, meaning that they only had 2 centre-backs and initially a single pivot. So again, a Liverpool forward would look to cut out Fernandinho, whilst the wider forwards would look to press the centre-back from out to in, meaning this was man-to-man. Under pressure and with limited options, City were therefore often forced to go backwards and long. This shows as City played many more long balls than Liverpool. But Pep again looked to adapt, firstly by moving Bernardo deep to be the second pivot alongside Fernandinho. But as the midfields were naturally 3 versus 3, Keita and Thiago could easily push up onto the double pivots, making it difficult for City to play through the centre. This is shown by the City attacking patterns. The single pivot shape also left City vulnerable defensively. In wide regions, Salah often remained high, so when Liverpool won the ball back, they would immediately look to hit the space between Zinchenko and Ake, as Zinchenko had pushed high. This would often put Salah in 1 versus 1s with one of the men, but Ake in particular was solid defensively in these situations. Another note was that for the most part, the City fullbacks did not invert in this traditional shape. Meaning, when Bernardo pushed higher on the ball, a 36-year-old Fernandinho was often isolated, so on the transition Liverpool could get past him easily and be running at the back four. But all of this is not to say that City were helpless. At times, Fernandinho would drop in to create a back three, drawing Mane out or giving City more time on the ball. But even with a regular two centre-back pairing, in the second half, City looked to exploit their left-hand side more. With Salah pressing out to in as discussed, Ake looked to take more risk on the ball, looking to play it around Salah so that now Zinchenko had acres of space to receive, although he often struggled to make the most of it. Alternatively, especially when City dropped Fernandinho deeper, potentially drawing a Liverpool midfielder higher, Foden was excellent at dropping into this left half space, and he could receive the ball and look to drive higher up the pitch. But again, City weren't able to take advantage of this in an attacking sense. Liverpool were good in possession as well. When looking to be more direct, the most common ploy was to look for Salah running in behind Zinchenko, but he was decent defensively. When defending, City were in a dedicated 4-4-2, for the most part, as seen in the average positions. This meant that they were consistently under the threat of being overloaded in the midfield. So initially, the City front two would look to guard Fabinho, but the Liverpool centre-backs often split wider, forcing the City front two to press and lose their compactness, and Alisson was an effective third man. So at times we'll see Alisson finding the pass into the midfield. However, Bernardo was as energetic as ever, so he could spring forward from midfield and look to cut out this option when possible and force Liverpool backwards. But this was a risky strategy again, as City were only a two-man midfield. And we would often see a Liverpool forward dropping into the midfield to make this overload even worse. As a result, Liverpool were often able to find a penetrative pass beyond Fernandinho and be able to run at the backline unchallenged. Another way that Liverpool looked to take advantage of a central overload was by translating it into a wide overload. In the 4-4-2, the City winger would naturally be drawn to the fullback in the press. The wider Liverpool midfielder would move into this space, drawing the City fullback higher up the pitch, trying to isolate a skillful winger against a less mobile defender. Overall, after going ahead early, Liverpool for the most part looked to control the match, and did so effectively. City shot themselves in the foot in the first half, but will be happier with the second half performance. But what did you make of the match? Drop it down below. And for the managerial tactical score, Klopp's press was highly effective, making it almost impossible for City to play their usual game, earning him an 8. Pep on the other hand was let down by some poor goalkeeping for the second and third goals, and besides that, City mostly played reasonably well, earning him a 7. But what did you rate both managers? Drop it down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more, and it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out. And a special thanks to my patrons including Adam Keating and Owen Song. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.